Hello, my beautiful friends, my fellow space blobs, sparkly blobs, sun blobs, creative forms in all of your shapes and creative spaces, butterflies emerging. Welcome back. We are getting into a new moon, the Taurus new moon, that has just been putting me in such a great headspace today as I was preparing to sit down and chat with you all about this process. I think we need this Taurus new moon. And I will say that this is one of the most powerful intention setting new moons we can work with this year. It's also helping us to get really, really clear because the first 4 months of this year have been really intense. They have asked a lot of us. Many of us have been going through physical and emotional waves of processing, facing into old wounds, facing into the wounding of culture right now, as well as opening to new versions of ourselves, getting connected to what really matters, really understanding what ingredients are going to be most important in this season of life. It has been a really, really emotional journey all the way through up until this point. And this new moon is doing a couple of things. It's helping us do that intention setting, that seed planting. This is the fixed earth sign. So we are getting really clear and intentional about what we want to sustain for a little while in our lives. And this is about getting enough spaciousness and feeling enough receptivity to be able to handle the amount of energy that is moving through our bodies right now and slowing down enough to breathe and reconnect. So we are managing that big amount of energy that is trying to move through the body, remembering we have time, remembering that it's not about rushing and forcing and controlling ourselves into results. And this moon is also about being willing and open to what wants to move through next and feeling that willing quality as we move through this time. New moons are secretly a very, very powerful time. Many of us are processing deep emotions during new moons, while we think of the full moon as kind of the culminating big drama queen of the month. New moons are secretly a place of deep, deep empowerment, emotional processing, and clarity. And this new moon is no exception. So let's get into some of the themes, some of the questions, some of the places that I think will really help you feel empowered to work with this Taurus new moon that's happening on April 27th and to feel connected to your soul song, to your body, to your knowing, to your visions, to your dreams, and how important this kind of work and exploration is right now in the world. Let's get into it. There is a lot of powerful energy moving through during this Taurus new moon, but I want to begin this conversation just coming back to basics and reconnecting with the archetype of Taurus as the sun and the moon meet here in this beautiful sign. You know, this is the fixed earth energy. Taurus is ruled by Venus. It's connected to the senses and how we experience beauty through our senses, how we experience a form of intuition that is connected to what really calls us forward, what brings our soul out. You know, when we're called to something beautiful, there is this openness to us. There is this gentle, creative process that is moving when we are drawn to something that we just find deeply, deeply beautiful. And there is so much power in being connected to that Taurus way of doing things. This is a deeply creative, inventive energy to work with. And it's one of the signs that I really, really connect with this idea of gardening because of that fixed earth quality. How we plant our seeds, how we add nutrients to the soil, how we slowly over time experience the creation of beauty through small acts of kindness to ourselves, through allowing ourselves to be pulled forward by that intuitive sense of being curious about what's beautiful and what brings us joy through that lens of beauty and sensation and being in our bodies in that way and not denying it. Anytime we're working with Taurus, we're working with finding ways to reconnect to the physical experience in ways that feel really good. And for many of us who have been taught to leave behind our bodies, to ignore what we prefer, to ignore how we're feeling, this is quite a revolutionary and important season of the year and archetype to work with. And I think this new moon is really asking for us to come back home to that. And right now there's a lot of cruelty showing up in the world, right? Like we know this, and it can be really, really heavy some days. I know I'm definitely still riding those waves every single day, every single week. And I think one thing that conscientious people tend to do during times where this kind of more heavy energy is very, very present and showing itself everywhere in the world is we tend to start to edit ourselves down. We're trying to like bully ourselves into staying safe. So we treat ourselves cruelly. We treat our dreams cruelly. We treat what we think of as beautiful cruelly. And we say, well, that is extemporaneous. That does not have anything to do with all of this going on here. So why would you even think like that? There are voices that many of us have cultivated to kind of shut down our dreaming and what our senses find beautiful and what we really, really feel like connecting in with ourselves. And I think that this is a chance, this new moon and this Taurus season in general, to turn all of those ideas on their head and to really think that this is something that I was thinking about since I was watching a writer who I really love, Florence Given. You can find her on Instagram and on Substack. She's fantastic. And she was saying, what if you being you is good for the planet? So what if your visions are good for the planet? What if you taking up space and feeling safe in your body is good for the planet? What if longing for connection and community and envisioning like really beautiful, nice things is good for things? What if that is contributing? What if you really seriously taking your dreams and visions as wholly beautiful things is something that is contributing to a changing way things are done? And I know many of us are already on this wavelength, but it feels so good to hear that, right? Because even for those of us who are we're working hard at exploring who we are and dreaming big and doing all of that, we still have a voice inside of us that's saying, that's pretty selfish. What do you think you wanting to connect to something is going to make things better? Like, how childish are you? We have that inner critic, we have that inner judge. This new moon is a chance to turn it all on its head. What are we willing to be open to? What are we willing to allow even a little bit of space for possibility that it could land in our lives? Where are we like holding ourselves tight and shutting it off and not feeling that openness? And also noticing where we're afraid that if we let ourselves dream, if we let ourselves open, what are we afraid might happen? What are we afraid might change? What are we afraid we might discover about ourselves? We might also notice we have resistance to our dreams and shut them down and edit them because we're a little bit nervous about how that's going to change ourselves. So a lot of deep questions come up with this concept of like, where are we being cruel to our longings, to ourselves, to our inner dreamer, to what feels beautiful and what our senses are calling us toward? And why is that? And what happens if we just during this new moon take a little bit of time to really allow ourselves to expand and create space and say, this is good for me. This is good for my community. This is good for who I'm becoming. This type of dreaming is what's going to allow me to show up in the community, to show up and make that new project, to make those phone calls, to connect with people. And if I try to skip this stuff, I'm always going to get stuck in the same routines. This Taurus new moon is also in a larger context that is quite powerful and profound. And that is a T-square that is being formed with the sun and moon in Taurus. They're squaring off with Mars at 4 degrees of Leo and Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius. What a combo of energies. So those are 3 fixed signs that are in conversation. So we are opening up that fixed sign energy. If you have a lot of fixed sign in your chart, which I definitely do, you might be really connected to this new moon in ways that feel really, really personal. But what I love about a T-square here is that it brings in illumination. It helps us get really, really clear. There's this interesting tension that arrives where we can feel the outlines of something more clearly. A lot of times when you hear people talk about T-squares in the online astrology community, the love of drama and stressing our nervous systems is a very popular avenue to take. I mean, that is the internet, right? Like there's a huge proportion of it that's about stressing out our nervous systems. But I would say that this is not so much about agitation and feeling confused and feeling like flummoxed as to what to do because there's these powerful energies in conversation. I would say it's the exact opposite. T-squares are these amazing moments of really connecting to ourselves. Oh, I can see this really matters to me. Oh, I can see that this is really something that I need to pay attention to. Oh, I understand now that it's okay that I don't want to accomplish that goal anymore. And I would rather see what happens if I take that pressure off and I focus my attention over here. Oh, that's not really important to me anymore, but this element is really, really important to me. And I think this kind of natural tension, it's like tuning strings on a violin or a harp or a piano where you want the tuning to resonate. You want it to be something that you can play a beautiful melody with that feels like it's working with you, that the notes are right. And that's one thing with working with fixed sign energy like this, is the fixed signs are about what we sustain over a long time. It's the foundation, it's the weft of the weaving, the foundational place where we thread all of the other little threads through as we are working. And it's a really important time of getting very clear with our tuning. Are we tuning to a note that is really true to ourselves? Or are we trying to tune to a note that just is not, it's not it. It's not it. We will be feeling this in our bodies. We will be feeling this where the pitches are just not feeling good. We're going to be feeling that. And we're going to be feeling the magnetic pull of tuning our strings to an energy that really, really feels good. And there's a really deep kind of moment of just being like, I am who I am, and I don't have to fight it anymore. We don't have to be in resistance to ourselves constantly editing, constantly at war, constantly saying, well, this person needs this from me, this person needs that from me. And in many ways, this new moon is a follow-up to all of the people-pleasing we were questioning during the Libra full moon we just moved through. I do want to get a little bit more specific about this T-square because, Mars and Pluto in this square off with these three fixed planets are opposing each other. And that's a pretty big deal right now because Mars has just been through this big retrograde process of moving between Leo and Cancer for months and months and months. And during this new moon on April 27th, we are just a handful of days away from Mars leaving its post-shadow phase after the retrograde. And Mars in its journey has really been reflecting, where are we forcing ourselves to uphold the same old status quo? Where have we been motivating ourselves by external factors of accomplishment that no longer serve? Where have we been waging war on ourselves when what we really need to be doing is mothering ourselves, is using our tools of insight and survival to care for ourselves, care for a creative vision. Where are we at war and where do we no longer want to be at war? So that's getting illuminated during this new moon. It's also opposing Pluto, which of course is newly in Aquarius, newly initiating us into these really big, larger cultural shifts going on in the world. We're getting used to that. And really with this whole opposition, this whole T-square, another set of questions comes up, which is, what do you think you'll gain when you get over there? And I think many of us have discovered there's no there, and we're just done with it, right? But what if there is no there? What if we don't have to try and live up to these promises? What if we don't have to use our vital life force energy to try to move mountains for these empty promises that culture has been feeding us for the last 100 years? Who are we now? What motivates you now? What calls to your soul alive now? And I think this T-square and the Mars-Pluto opposition and all of these conversations really are saying, we can take score of all the different times our minds changed, or the times we were like confused or in a fog or unsure, or like maybe we didn't know what we wanted. And we can like tally that all up and say, well, look at all this time you spent doing all these other things. Why give yourself the permission to open to something new now? But I think the invitation here is to just allow the process that's been to be what it is, and be okay with being open to who you are now. What are your fantasies now? What are your visions now? Regardless of where you've been over the last few years. Who are you now? And where are you still trying to live up to old goals, old pursuance of the mystical there that does not exist? And what can you just say, I'm not doing that anymore? All right, I am starting to shuffle, and I just want to say during this new moon, you might be feeling really big waves of clarity, of energy, of like readiness, eagerness, where it almost feels like you just cannot hold it in your body. You just want to get it going, and it might feel like, I want to do it. And I think it's really important to remember to bring in a sense of spaciousness in the process. And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing over on Patreon. If you want to join me, I'm going to be doing a little practice, a little visualization where we're going to create that safe landing place, that big spaciousness that allows all of this big energy, this big visioning, this big clarity that this conversation between all these planets and during this new moon are bringing in. So I'd love to see you there for that, and just to feel that big exhale in the process of moving through all of the huge energy that we are moving through right now. I'm feeling it so deeply. And I tell you what, I have been having so many insights coming through about how I'm changing, and it's like a lot of information, and some of it I'm not quite ready to like act out and make happen in the next month, right? But I'm just getting myself associated with it. Okay, 2 cards fell out. Let's see what they are. Oh my gosh, they're so fitting. The Empress and the 6 of Pentacles. Yes. That makes so much sense. Yeah, I think what's really important about this Taurus season is landing in our bodies, getting connected with our visions, and allowing for that to just open the chapter without feeling like we have to complete it, or we have to like get it all done and like rush. You know, it's like it's gonna take some time to get acquainted with some of the elements. I'm gonna pull one more card here. I think I already said that, but and the Chariot. Wow. Okay. I loved this. I haven't seen the Empress for a little while. She hasn't been coming out in my work recently. So I love that she's here for Taurus season and Taurus new moon. And, you know, the Empress, yeah, she is the tarot card connected to the archetype of Taurus. And what's really important about the Empress, one thing to note is she always has the river of life running through her card. And this one, it's back here, winding around in the background. She is very connected with the innate things that bring us joy and beauty. Not the things we're forcing ourselves to be good at, to accomplish, to make happen. The creative process of just being open to ourselves. And often this is called, you know, divine feminine and the receptive state and just letting things happen. You can also think about this as connecting to the Tao, to the great mystery of the river that flows through us, the greater consciousness that wants to be translated through us. And when we release resistance, it opens. But I think even more than that is the experience of not fighting against ourselves. We have things that we're just naturally drawn to, things that naturally connect with us. And a lot of times we think that's too easy, that's too simple. It's not hard enough, it's not miserable enough. Why am I allowed to think that way? It's a reminder. And I think many of us innately connect to the Empress. I don't even have to be talking here, because emotively there is an exhale that happens every time she appears. It's a reminder that putting ourselves through hell isn't necessarily going to be the thing that saves the world. Sometimes we go through difficult things. Definitely. 100% that is true. And having spaces of receptivity is extremely important to live in a nuanced world. So it's a reminder there. 6 of Pentacles is really interesting as well, because it's about balancing. It's about coming into that tuning process I was talking about when working with fixed sign energy. We are tuning our strings. We are setting up our weaving, the weft of our weaving, so that we can weave through it with integrity, with connection to ourselves. And the Six of Pentacles is about that connection. Six of Pentacles also secretly is about receptivity to the divine as well, and allowing ourselves to be the person receiving, being open to allowing in help, resources, love, encouragement. Isn't it amazing how often we will shut ourselves off from that? And also giving that forward, of course, like giving love, encouragement, hope to those that we love and are close to or around us. So both of these cards are about that receptive state, which is a very deep part of Taurus energy. But it does require intentionality. Being receptive is an intentional process we do. It's something that we build into and we create, right? And then we have the Chariot, which I think is really interesting because this is an energy that is about vision. It's also about balance and harmony. And there's like a lot of imagery here that's about how we keep our scales balanced within ourselves. But this is also one of connecting to our true selves and seeing ahead, seeing this is where I'm headed. This is what matters to me. This is what's interesting to me. This is where my soul is getting called. And that kind of powerful visionary energy is just a really innate part of the world right now, I would say, and this new moon for sure. And all of these cards together, when I look at them, what I see is this is not about being in a battle with ourselves. This is about letting go of all of that and really getting honest with what we want to tend in our garden, what longings we have been trying to shove away, even though they are so natural and innate to us. And instead of resisting ourselves, just getting curious, getting open, and making a little bit of space for that. So I really love seeing these images here in our work together as we move through a very intense time to be alive. Like truly, I'm smiling here and I'm bringing the positive energy and I'm like ready for it. And I love to create that space. And I tell you what, there have been some dark days and some big tears and a lot of emotional processing, as well as a deeper communion with coming home and finding that self-respect and realizing how important it is right now to develop that skill in this version of the world. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a practice for creating spaciousness because it's a lot of energy to translate as we move through this new moon doorway. And I wanted to make a practice that would help us feel that exhale in the body so that we can make space for all this energy to move through and feel safe in it. So I'd love to see you there for that. And you can watch all of the episodes of my Wild Dreaming series I did moving through Venus retrograde. But those practices, they help you artistically connect to your archetypes, to your subconscious, to your process and what's wanting to be expressed. I cannot recommend those highly enough because they are really my soul work, and I love to share my wild dreaming practices and create spaces where we can do that together. So I'd love to see you over in that space. We also have Zoom gatherings every month where we talk about some of this changing energy, and I'd love to see you at one of those gatherings and chat about life and the process. So I love it when you are here. Let me know, how are you feeling? What is this new moon bringing up for you? What are you noticing in your body? Are you noticing that you're having some really big visions that are coming in and you're like, I don't know what to do with that. Like, I'm so not ready to change in these huge ways quite yet, but I also feel this natural resonance with that change. I'm feeling that so hugely right now. I can't even tell you. It's a little intimidating, but it's very exciting. So I'd love to hear just like how you're feeling and what's coming up for you and how you're changing and what you're noticing about who you are now and how you're feeling in your body. How you're feeling connecting to your body. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments below, and see you over on Patreon and see you here in the very near future. I am sending you all so much love. I will be back so soon for our next conversation, our next deep dive, and I hope you have a beautiful new moon.